Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Vandal Scoreboard. I'm Mark Warren.
And I'm James Torman Aldrich.
It's been a while since the two of us have been here. I was re-listening to some old ones, and it was October 22nd was the last time we both recorded a scoreboard.
Yeah, I've been out of town quite a bit, and Mark's been doing
busy,
stuff.
and weather, and obviously everything happening on campus, which we have not said anything at QE, but QE staff and DJs extend their condolences and love to the family and friends of the four victims.
Yeah, it's been a weird week on campus for sure. A tough week, in a tough couple of weeks on campus. A tough week in particular for Idaho athletics. Yeah, I just go ahead and jump into football to start.
Football. Obviously, I don't think we're breaking any news here. Heartbreaking loss in the playoffs.
Yeah, the thing I want to start with is we cannot put the blame on Ricardo Chavez for this loss. Ricardo went 48 for 48 on point after attempts and 15 for 20 from field goal range. He's a dang good kicker. Probably the best pickup that the Vandals got in the offseason. And I loved the amount of support that instantly happened on Twitter from Vandal fans, making sure Ricardo knew that, the love that Vandal fans have for him. 48-45 loss is obviously difficult. I saw him
45-42?
45-42, yeah. I saw him at the Vigil the other night, and of course that was a tough night, and also that tough loss. He looked pretty down. So just a big shout out to Chavez for a great season for the Vandals. Just a tough loss on a honestly awful turf.
That was one of the notes I had. Like he's played great all season, but no, a terrible turf. It was rainy. It was windy out there. Not an easy kick to make.
No, and he's used to outside kicks in California, where he transferred from, and then playing in an indoor stadium. The only kicks he's missed really were the one at Montana, which I thought went through. Watching the replay, it definitely missed by a few inches. He's not very off very often.
No.
So, yeah, it's just a great season from him. A lot of first, second, third team all-conference selections for the Vandals in the Big Sky Conference. Just a really great season.
Great season, great rookie season for a rookie head coach. He came in and he changed this program around. I was talking to my dad after the game. I was like, if I were to cover one game of any Vandal season in any recent history, if I had to watch any game, it would have been this one, because I watched every game of the season covering it, and it was a very fun team to watch.
Yeah, the only game I really missed was the tough loss against UC Davis. It was in Kansas City at the time, but Coach Eck has done incredible things for this program. The first player I interviewed, I got back on campus late in July, and at their first practice, I interviewed Roshan Johnson, who was a senior this season. And one of the things he said was, Coach Eck makes you feel like you want to be here. And, with the previous coaching staff, you saw players hum-dum all the time. They were out in force in the ISUB a couple weeks ago for the UC Davis game, getting people to come out. Coach Eck has really changed the culture, and just a huge shout-out to what he's done.
Well, yeah, something we're going to talk about later, and I do want to talk more about the game, but there's been a lot of commitments to the university. I think we were talking earlier, and you said like 37?
Yeah, around 37, I believe, last season. I think when I wrote the article on commitments, there were about 25, and then 3 coming in just before the season, one of those being Giuliano Falanico, who came in and was a dominant force on defense. Just a great committing offseason last year. Obviously, a lot of those being brought in by Petrino, and then Eck just continuing that recruitment. But the coaching staff has gotten out to a lot of the West Coast to get some good players.
Yeah, no. One of the players I think everyone is really looking at is Jackson Eck. Eck's son has committed, and you said you've seen some of his tape. He's looking really good.
Yeah, he is a very, very good player on defense. His dad being an offensive lineman out Wisconsin in his college days. Jackson, he's got a frame there on. I think he's defensive back or defensive line. Gonna be
he's a linebacker.
Yeah, so defensive back coming in and gonna be able to, if he does play this season, hopefully fill that spot left by Favai. Jackson coming in, I believe his mom retweeted that he was one of the top 50 players in the state of South Dakota this season. So huge recruitment there, and some may say nepotism. I just say he's a dang good player.
Yeah, and why not? Why not be coached by someone you know very well? I do want to move back to the SLU game. Moving back to that final kick, I personally think the Vandals should have run one more play, a quick out, get them 5-10 yards. They had 11 seconds on the clock. I feel like that was one coaching change, and you're going to expect mistakes. But that was something I would do different.
Yeah, I asked Coach Eck after the game. They did a Zoom press conference, and I got the last question in, which usually doesn't happen. And I asked him, having 11 seconds on the clock, would you have gone for another play? And he said, looking back with Ricardo missing that kick, and it wasn't a length thing. It was a crappy field thing, as we said earlier, just slipping on that kick. But he did say he would have liked to try to get closer. Couldn't really take a shot for the end zone. It was pretty blanketed. But yeah, I would have gone for another play. See if Hatton can get 15 yards down the field, which would have put him at the 7-yard line. And if he gets out of bounds there, and there's still 7 seconds on the clock, maybe go for another one, take a shot for the end zone, and if not, just throw it out the back of the end zone. But definitely should have maybe gone for a play there. But we saw them go for that play in the end zone against WSU and ended up getting intercepted, losing by 7. So
yeah, I mean it's a game of chance, and I don't think what he did was the wrong thing. I think that taking a field goal there was a very smart choice also. But I would say I think he probably should take that 15-yard out route. But also Chavez hit the kick. He hit the kick. They took a timeout, so it wasn't like he just missed it.
No, and a lot of SLU fans were saying that he missed both times. It was straight through the middle the first time he kicked it. Just a tough draw there, slipping on a field that I doubt was cleaned off all week because it was pouring rain down there the entire week leading into the game, and then started raining during the game. So there really in any situation, there's no reason he should have made the kick at all. So the fact that icing the kicker worked there, but it was looking back at the game, there were probably a lot of different decisions you make. Giovanni McCoy on that little out route, I think that was going to either Hayden or Jackson. That was intercepted. Really his only bad pass of the game. Yeah,
that's something I want to talk about. It was a very uncharacteristic 2-interception game. That first interception wasn't super his fault. It was a good throw. That second interception, though, that pick six, you got to take the sack there, got to throw it out.
Yeah, he and looking back, you probably see someone further downfield or someone in the middle of the field, but he was pretty focused to that right side, and I don't know if he saw the SLU defender. He kind of just came out from behind of whoever the receiver was and got in front. And the thing there is, though, McCoy went for the tackle. Yeah. He was chasing after the player. You might see some QBs give up there and hope that their offensive lineman or left or right end try to get the guy, or wide receiver can take him down. But
no, I mean,
good hustle from McCoy.
McCoy's a tough guy. Something else that I've seen a lot of people blame McCoy. The defense let up 45 points. That's 5 touchdowns. It's hard to win a game the defense didn't let up 45 points, but they let up all but that pick six. It's tough to win a game when 45 points are scored against you.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Coach Eck and the rest of the coaching staff should have gone after during the season and should go after this off season is defensive backs and defensive line that can stop a freaking running quarterback. We saw this against Asher O'Hara. He ran for almost, I think, 300-400 yards against us as a quarterback. So the defense could stop the run game.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is I wrote this. They gave up 241 rushing yards.
Yeah,
that you can't do that. You are not going to win playoff games and give up 241 yards.
Yeah, and if you look back at the Montana game, I think they gave up like 37. So
yeah, I think there was like 50 combined rushing yards in that game.
They've proven that they can stop runners. that are running backs, but they can't stop running quarterbacks. So I think that's something that if they weren't working on the week up into practice, something they need to spend a lot of time getting better at is making sure you can tackle the quarterback when he gets out of the pocket, tackle the quarterback when it's a design run. You just have to go all out for that.
Yeah, the defense only got 1 sack in that game. You got to be able to get pressure on that quarterback. You got to make sure he can't move. Got to get him down on the ground.
Yeah, speaking of which, Kamari Bailey had an incredible season. I mentioned earlier in the year, one of the first podcasts that we did is I wasn't expecting Kamari Bailey to get much playing time this season. I sat next to him in a couple classes last year, and we had talked about his football aspirations and stuff. And he came in this season, and he's from England, and came in and just put the pressure on quarterbacks. He had a I don't know if the sack was his, but he had a 5-yard TFL.
Yeah, he had 2 tackles for loss, and he was the 1 sack.
Yeah, so he's going to be a great player for the Vandals next season. Leo Tambo was asked after the game about Kamari Bailey, and just nothing but praise from the senior.
Leo also had a great season, a bunch of sacks. He was getting back to the quarterback.
Yeah, one of our own over at the Argonaut. Leo he's a great player. He's a great guy. Gonna be incredibly missed by Vandal fans and by the Vandals defense and the team in general. Getting captain this season, coming off a tough injury. And that's another thing. Injuries really affected the Vandals this season. Yeah. Having a lot of young talent, a lot of injuries. Therese Traynor being out for most of the season was tough on them, only having Hatton and Jackson really at the wide receiver core. So staying healthy is going to be huge for the Vandals next season.
Yeah, you mentioned Hatton. Insane game, 209 yards and a touchdown. Insane season by Hayden Hatton. What was it, 15 regular season touchdowns? Yeah,
15 regular season touchdowns, breaking the Idaho record. I don't know what the Big Sky record is. He was 1 away from tying the Big Sky record of 5 receiving touchdowns in a game against Eastern. Exactly 1,000 yards in the regular season. Not 1,001.
1,000 on the dot.
Exactly 1,000. So a great season from Hatton. Him and Jermaine Jackson, after the SLU game, were first and second in the Big Sky Conference in receiving yards. So a huge duo there. And if Hayden Hatton decides to stick around, which
I hope he does.
I wouldn't be him. I wouldn't be worried as a Vandal fan this season. Hatton is he's definitely cemented himself this year, but is injury prone. Spent most of last season injured. So and with the amount of PT and looks he's getting, I wouldn't expect him to leave.
No, I mean, Jermaine Jackson, you also mentioned, an insane wide receiver duo. 5 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Also the kick return touchdown. He is electric whenever he's on the field.
Yeah, 95-yard return on the kickoff, and had a 90-something, 80-something yard punt return earlier in the season, I think against Portland State.
Yeah,
so
I think Portland State.
Really, really good returner, really good receiver, just does everything you need on offense.
Yeah, no, he is quick. He doesn't have the hands and the ability to go up and get the ball like Hatton does, but he will get down the field and he will burn defensive backs. He's
also 5'9", I think, so a short receiver. I saw him the other day as well. I didn't realize how short he was until the other day. But the fact that he still tries to get up for balls, Hayden Hatton has 5 inches on him. So obviously, you look for Hatton if he's covered. You look for Jermaine if he's wide open.
Yeah.
Really just an incredible wide receiver duo. And thankfully, I talked to Therese during a game about a month ago, and he should be ready for spring ball and should be back for next season. So
no, I'm excited for next season. This Vandal offense could be dangerous. Obviously, Anthony Woods and Elijah Cummings. It's looking like it's going to be a fun season next year.
Yeah, and one thing I was thinking of the other day, I hadn't talked about this on Twitter or anything, is we saw a lot of 2 quarterback offenses in the Big Sky this season, with Montana State not really utilizing a 2-quarterback system until Tommy Malott went down, and then when Malott came back, they utilized him and whoever the other guy is. Sacramento State, Asher O'Hara, and whoever the other guy is, and SLU, whoever the heck their quarterbacks' names are. I think Idaho, and this may be a hot take, I think Idaho could run a 2 QB system next season with C.J. Jordan transferring out. I think Jabor Gibbs may have some eligibility left, but I'm not sure. But that Jack Lane kid is impressive.
He played well against ISU.
Played well against Idaho State. I think he played, might have been Portland State earlier.
I think it was the Drake game. I think it was the first home game.
Yeah, so playing Drake as well, played very well. And they're very similar quarterbacks. Jack Lane has a little bit more height than McCoy. Could probably do some more QB runs, but I wouldn't put that out of the picture if I'm Idaho. I also don't see it, maybe a big plausibility of happening, but just a thought of making sure that we have quarterback depth and we can utilize it.
Yeah, something that I'm looking forward to next season. I was looking at the schedule with Jaden Barfus last night, and we have Sac State, Montana, and Montana State all at home.
And Montana State and Montana in back-to-back weeks.
There's a bye week in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, we play them. We play them.
Weeks.
It's going to be a fun. And we also have ISU Battle of the Domes in the Kibbe Dome.
Yeah. So Idaho got, we may get screwed by the refs a lot, but the people who are in charge down in Ogden at the Big Sky headquarters have given Idaho a really good draw this season and next season. Not having to play Montana State this season was huge. Not having to play Weber was huge. If we play those two teams instead of, let's say, Portland and Portland State and Eastern, we're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, Montana State is going to continue to be better. Montana is going to be whatever the heck Montana is going to be next season. I don't usually talk good on that team. If you listen to the podcast, I don't know. I think the last time we were together.
Yeah, or anywhere on your Twitter.
Yeah, not a big Montana fan. I think their coach is, he's a football coach, that's for sure. And I think that's a big issue that we saw down at Idaho State. Usually talk Vandals on here, but Idaho State losing their head coach after one season. Bobby Hawk might be out the door after next season. The Vandals, Sac State, and Montana State have really gotten the gold when it comes to coaching staff. So Idaho is going to have a tough schedule next year for sure.
But we play those tough games in the Kibbe Dome.
Playing in the Dome, there's something that everybody who is a fan of Idaho, a fan of the Big Sky, a fan of NCAA 14, you play in the Dome and you have an advantage every single time.
Yeah, no, I think if we play Sac State in the Dome this year, we win that game.
Yeah, if we play Montana in the Dome this season, we beat them by 50.
Yeah, no, and so I am excited to get to go to those games. I'm excited for the ISU game. I have not gotten to. I've gotten to go to one game as a Vandal fan. My freshman year, I went to the Portland State game. Every other game I've been in the press box, so I'm hoping to be able to go and be a fan and be a student for some of those games.
Yeah, I am a big Vandal fan. I really enjoy being on the field. But it's so different being in the stands and being surrounded by other Vandals, whether you're sitting with your parents or you're sitting with a friend or you're in the midst of the student section, the vandalizers, as we're called. It's really just a different experience, and I'm hoping that we can bring that same experience and that same energy that we had in the Dome this season to ICCU Arena. We can fit 4,000 people in there, so I hope that Vandal fans can get excited for our men and women's basketball teams, just as they were for our football team.
Yeah, basketball has kicked off since we last recorded together. I think you guys talked about it a little bit with Zach. You and Zach talked about it. But Vandals, neither of them have really gotten to a hot start this season.
No, it has been a difficult start, which I think a lot of people were expecting for the women's team. I don't think people were expecting the men's team to start out. I think they're 2-5 or 4.
Yeah, I think
something.
2-5.
2-5. Beating Walla Walla, who might as well not have even been a game. It was 122-48. But University of the Pacific last week, huge win for Idaho. And that right there, a lot of people were hoping that it wasn't another Zach Claus contract year because of that game. But, if Idaho can get on a little bit of a run here, playing Northern Illinois University tonight at the time of recording, if they can get on a little run here like they did near the end of last season, which I wholly expect them to do. This men's team has too much talent. You got Devontae Moffitt and Isaac Jones, who played ball together back in elementary school before going to different high schools, and now back together on the Vandals. You have Rashad Smith, who has struggled to get into a groove so far, but is a really good player. And my biggest gripe that I have with Vandal basketball is, what is the point of getting 10 to 15 talented players and only utilizing 5 or 6 of them? The women's team last year lost by 6 in the semifinal game. And, Coach Newley brought up in the press conference, that's a game you think about a lot. Idaho wins that game if they utilize 1 or 2 players off the bench and give Beyonce B 5 minutes to rest. Beyonce B played that entire game.
Yeah, that you can't win games by only playing 5. That's how you get hurt. That's how you get tired. That is, I haven't watched a lot of Vandal basketball, but that is not how you can win games.
No, and Taryn Frank was out for a couple of games for Utah Tech. I think he was out for both Cal Poly and Pacific. I don't know if he'll be back tonight or tonight at the time of recording. But you lose a big there, but you also have talent at the the very end of the bench that isn't being utilized. Jack Hatton played for a very brief moment in the Evergreen State game. Cousin of Hayden and Hogan Hatton. Jack is, he has the heart of a basketball player, and he's a player that we've had on the team for 2 years, 3 years now, hasn't been utilized. And I think that is the biggest issue that Vandal basketball has. A lot of other teams are running 5, 6, 7 players because they have, that top end talent, and that's really it. But Idaho has talent deep in the bench. One thing that I want to really bring up is, why is Titus Yearout not playing? I think Titus Yearout is, top 4 or 5 player on this team. He may not have had a good showing against Evergreen State, but best basketball player in Idaho last season. And without having Gabe Quinnett, he's kind of that hometown hero player. When he came out for the Evergreen State game, the arena exploded. And a lot of fans are asking the same question. Titus Yearout is a very talented three-point shooter, very talented playmaker, a guy who could easily be backing up Rashad Smith or Yusuf Salih. We need to utilize the bench.
Yeah, no, I've only watched the Walla Walla game. I think that's the only one I watched. That was a fun game to watch. I liked watching that one.
Yeah, I mean, winning by 80 some odd points or just under 80 points is really impressive. And you can go through your whole bench when you're up by 50, but you can also go through your bench when you're down 10, 20 points.
Yeah, no, it won't hurt. If you're already losing, it won't hurt to
and if we look at I think it was the Utah Tech game and Cal State Bakersfield, they went on a 20-0 run. At that point, why are you not putting your bench in?
Yeah, no, you have to stop playing not to lose and start playing to try to win. That's the big thing, is like, if you're already losing, you might as well change something. Yeah,
so I'm hoping, I don't know how Northern Illinois is at men's basketball, but I'm hoping it's a decent game where we can see some players that deserve some playing time get on the court. They're 3-5. Just looked it up. Let's see who they've played. They lost to Illinois Springfield by 6, Northwestern by 17, Purdue Northwest by 26, Georgia Tech by 18, Sam Houston, which is a football school, really, by 34, and lost to Northern Iowa by 7. Their 2 wins are against LIU, whatever that is, 86-61, and Eastern Illinois, 90-70. They also play Gonzaga on Monday, so they're going to come in here and probably are looking forward to that Gonzaga game. And if they can, show out here, then they'll go against Gonzaga and maybe have a chance at something.
Gonzaga, one of the best teams in the country, very far from Idaho's talent level.
Yeah, so Idaho is going to have a tough game against NIU. If you're scheduling teams like Gonzaga when Idaho can't even continue their rivalry against WSU this season, then that should tell us something for what we should expect for this game.
I'm probably going to tune in for a little bit, but I'm not expecting much out of this Vandals team, seeing what I've seen from them.
Yeah, I expect a lot out of Isaac Jones, obviously. I think he put up 31 points or something like that against Pacific. Looking for a lot from Devontae Moffitt, Yusuf Salih. I'd really like to see Rashad Smith start shooting more. I'd like to see the whole Vandal team start shooting more and start making them.
That's kind of a big part of basketball is making baskets.
Yeah, we can get in the paint and Isaac Jones can jam it on a defender's head, but when you have players that are coming down and raining 10, 15 threes on you, and you're only hitting 2-point shots, and not getting the offensive rebound when you miss the three, you're going to struggle. The women's team, on the other hand, has played a tough schedule. A schedule that we knew was going to be difficult going into the season. They sit at 1-3, losing a tough one to Utah, 88-63, a tough one to California, 84-71. Really tough loss against Richmond, 80-49. They just couldn't get anything going in that game. And their one win coming last Sunday against Navy, winning that 90-84. I think Beyonce is the best college basketball player, just in general, between men and women's basketball, at the FCS level. She is insanely good at what she does. Having Tiana Johnson come back for another year was great for Idaho, but Beyonce is incredible. And I am excited to see what she can do when they finally come back home for one game against a team that the men lost to, Denver. They play December 15th at 6 p.m. And then we'll play GCU and Utah Valley after that before getting into conference play. Also start tough.
The Vandals women's team had a game at home yet?
So they had an exhibition game.
Okay, but they haven't had like a regular game.
Haven't had a regular game.
That's a real rough start to the schedule.
Yeah, so, our volleyball team went out and started, what was it, 3-12 or something like that, or 3-9. And they played on the road in tournaments for 2 months pretty much. And the same is happening with the women's team. They played at Utah on November 7th. They'll play in the Winter Classic against Nevada and New Mexico State this weekend. They play back-to-back games. Played on Saturday at 4 against Nevada and Sunday at 2 against New Mexico State. Then Texas A&M Commerce, which, looking back at football, that is a team that SLU, I believe, lost to by 3. So hopefully their women's basketball team isn't as good. Then, like I said, playing that Denver game, but also a tough start to the in-conference schedule, playing against Montana State and Montana. Montana State, one of the best programs in the Big Sky, if not the best And Montana, they're not as good, but still a very good basketball team.
Yeah, no, I hope that the Vandals women's basketball team isn't the same as the volleyball team, because that volleyball team, since we last recorded an episode, finished 4-24, I believe.
Yeah, didn't win a single game at home, but a young team. There's a lot of talent there,
A lot of promise,
and if Coach Gonzalez can keep them around, and if Coach Gonzalez sticks around for a while. Like I've mentioned previously on the show, he's one of the best D1 volleyball coaches ever. So, he has the talent. He was able to go out and pick up some great players. Olivia Glockner, especially Taryn Vreeling. Losing Allison Monday is going to hurt. Hopefully Travel Morris sticks around for another season. Just a tough season for Idaho, but a lot of promise there, as you said.
Yeah, no, and since we last recorded soccer, obviously losing in that heartbreaker in the Big Sky finals in penalty kicks.
Yeah, that was it was a tough one to watch. I don't know exactly what Clevenger was thinking, putting players out there to kick who hadn't played all game. It was definitely a heartbreaker, but Jaden Barfus did the research on the 7 commits that we got, 7 very talented players, adding to an already loaded roster. So another international goalkeeper, I believe from Mexico. So it's going to be another exciting season for soccer. Hopefully volleyball can turn things around. Men and women's basketball, I wouldn't put much hope in this men's team. I do think that they have the talent. I know they have the talent. You have the duo of Moffitt and Jones coming in. If we look at last season, Idaho's really good at bringing in duos. So, last season having Mikey Dixon and Rashad Smith transfer up from GCU. And this time around having 2 players that have known each other their whole lives playing on the same team. I think, once again, you just got to utilize that depth. And the women's team as well. We saw them struggle in the Big Sky Conference, playing 3 games, going into that Montana State game. If the other 2 B sisters are anything like Beyonce, there's definitely talent on that team. So a season to watch for Idaho women's basketball, season to push through for Idaho men's basketball. And I talked with Zach at the when we talked a few weeks ago. Coach Claus loves this team. He's a great guy. It's just when you have another team going on 20-0 runs, 17-0 runs, you kind of have to start looking above the talent and see exactly what's going on. If Isaac Jones is out on that court, you should be winning basketball games.
Yeah, I mean, especially if he's putting up 30 points. Like he's putting up great numbers. It's not his fault that we're losing.
No.
So you have to look at that.
Yeah. So I love Coach Claus. He's a great guy, and I would hate to see him leave, honestly. And I do, however, really want to see what the assistant coaching staff could do. We got a very good assistant coach in Jeremy Harden, I think is his first name, coming in and could do some great things for Idaho. So Coach Claus will finish out this season most likely, and I don't know what the future will hold for men's basketball. We'll have to come back on April 21st and see where the search is at, see if he got another contract. But it'll be a difficult season for Idaho men's basketball if they keep going the way they're going. They're not losing by much.
No, they just need that little bit extra.
Yeah,
they need a little bit.
If Rashad Smith can start putting up more shots and hitting more shots, Yusuf Salih, Yusuf Salih, he's a sharpshooter. He just, I don't think he's taking the wide open shots that he needs to. We saw Isaac Jones hit a 3 against Evergreen State, and I don't think he's taken one since. So this team just has to shoot, and it has to make them. and the talent has to be utilized properly. Saw Tanner Christensen come back from or played here last season, transferred to Utah Tech, and Tanner wasn't utilized very properly last season, and came out and showed Idaho how he should be utilized. So I'm hoping we don't have a similar situation. Isaac Jones could transfer at the end of the year. I believe this is Rashad's final season of eligibility. Same with Devontae Moffitt. So Idaho is going to have to put something together, whether that's at the coaching level or just getting to work as players. I've seen them in the gym till 10 p.m. And so, just got to keep putting that work in and hope that something gets going.
Yeah, it's been a really fun semester getting to cover Vandal Sports with you and like Connor and Daniel, everyone at the Vandal Nation over here. And this is our last episode of the semester. We're going to be back in January talking about more basketball. So we thank you for listening. I don't have anything else. I'm not sure if I think the biggest thing for me is just make sure you're at games. If you're in Moscow, tickets aren't that expensive. If you're a student, tickets are free. You don't need to study anyways. No, who cares about homework?
Yeah,
GPAs
exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, finals week, you'll be fine if you get a C.
We're all in school to watch sports, not actually like learn anything.
Exactly. If you weren't at a Vandal football game, you were doing this semester wrong. So thank you all for tuning in, whether that's on 89.3 or on QE.org or
YouTube or
Spotify
anywhere you are. Or if you're in this room listening to us.
Yeah, that'd be
anywhere.
Kind of weird.
Are they in the ceiling?
They're probably in the walls. All right. Thank you, everyone. You can follow me on Twitter at JamesAldrich25.
You can follow me at MarkWarren1832. Goodbye, everyone.